So we are deepening into the power of prayer by delving into the 3 secrets of answered prayer. And this is according to the spiritual novel by Reverend August Gold and Joel Fontino. And again, this is the 3rd week. I want to start with a quote from Ernest Holmes in his Science of Mind book, where he writes, "No class of people on earth believe more in the power of prayer than we do. Our whole theory is based not only on the belief in spirit, but in the availability of it. Its immediate response, and we even go as far as to say in everyday language, pray right, and God can help but respond." So we've been using the book, The Prayer Chest, a small novel, spiritual novel, to answer how to pray right. In fact, it offers this promise: bring your prayers to the prayer chest, my son. This is, we're going to get into the little story. I'll do a quick recap. This is the father speaking to the son. Joseph's father tells him, "And all that you shall ask shall be answered one by one." And then he tells him, "Slip 100 prayers into the chest, and do not use the secret of the prayer chest, and all 100 shall go unanswered. But slip 100 prayers into the chest, utilizing the secret of the prayer chest, and every last one shall be answered to the utmost." So a brief refresher of our little story that we've been, I'm looking around, I'm seeing all these people, it's like, whoa, you weren't here before when I turned around. Welcome. Anyway, one by one, so he tells them to slip those prayers into the prayer chest. So this is the brief refresher. Our protagonist is a man named Joseph, who is living a quiet life of desperation. He is running a farm that was left to him and his family, something he didn't want to do, but he does it. And it's been there for generations. His beloved wife, Miriam, dies, leaving him raising 2 small children. And then the bank forecloses on the farm, a couple of late payments that he made. And his 2 children, and he must be out within a month. So Joseph has no money and no place to go. He has a breakdown, which is shown through the metaphor of throwing. He went up to the attic, he was so angry, and he threw everything out of the window. Ancestral heirlooms and junk and treasures and all kinds of old stuff. And that represents clearing beliefs, perhaps, from some inherited from the family. That's the metaphor that we're using with that. Throwing it all out, all those beliefs from his consciousness. And sometimes we must go through complete chaos and confusion to arrive at clarity that we may be seeking. After breakdowns, we are open to the breakthroughs that will follow if we're in the right frame of mind. We can see clearly enough. Boy, all the songs are in there. We can see clearly enough for it to occur. Yeah. The attic is now empty. When he went back up there because he's packing up the house, and he discovers this prayer box, which he calls the prayer chest. And we discussed the first 2 prayers as 3 secrets to answered prayers. So first, prayer must be answered through you. You must feel it. Second, prayer is answered when you listen. And so we move to that third secret in our novel, where we left Joseph distraught over the news of losing the farm and the fear that he had around that. And having just discovered the second secret of listening, he's starting to practice that. The next morning, as he and his children are packing up their belongings, the baker returns to the house. And Joseph is not too receptive to his being there, but he decides to listen, because that's when we know we're practicing the second secret of prayer, listening. So he decides that he better listen. And what he hears is pretty amazing. The banker has a change of heart. Because of a family connection he discovered, he wants to help Joseph. He wants to hire him to do all this woodwork for him. That's Joseph's first love, is woodworking. He wants to pay him a healthy sum to do that. And he wants to help him stay on the farm. In fact, he said the following Monday he'd like to send his carriage to pick Joseph up and to bring him to his house. Right at 7 o'clock sharp in the morning. So things were starting to look a lot better for Joseph and brighter. Hey, maybe there is something to this prayer chest stuff, he thought. Then Monday morning arrived, 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9, 10, and nothing came, no word, no nothing. Of course, Joseph immediately went to the worst. The banker forgot, or he was just tricking him, and all of that, where our minds do go. What a little bit of faith he had been building turned to fear. Great fear, immediately. How many things like that happen to us in life? We make progress in our spiritual path, and we are feeling more alive. Things are turning around. We're more connected, more in tune, more supported, more loved. And our outside world is reflecting our inner world. And then, boom, something happens that you do not expect. Because we usually don't expect good or bad. But something happens to throw you into that whole state of fear again. Something happens to completely contradict the wonderful direction that you've been heading in. Maybe even takes your breath away and knocks you to your knees. Anyone ever have that happen? A few of us, just a few, yeah. We're here today. Of course it doesn't last. But yeah, that's life. That is the life that we have chosen to live here. So he hears the voice of his beloved wife, Miriam, who is a big prayer. She prayed a lot. And she's telling him that the real enemy, his deepest challenge, isn't what he keeps thinking it is. It isn't the banker. It isn't the farm. And it isn't even her death. It is, in fact, his fear. And so he opens his heart just enough, and that's all we have to do, just enough to be willing. A little crack is all the universe needs to fill you up and out. So he becomes a little bit excited to see how this third secret of listening is really going to work, how it's going to manifest. And this third secret is, to today that we're going into, is a place of powerful transformation. A place where not only prayers are answered, but lives are changed forever. And so Joseph sat down with his children and his dear friend Grace, and her daughter Rose, and opened the notebook and began to read, because there was a notebook in that old chest that his father had left, didn't tell him about, but had left. So it said, prayer is answered when you welcome everything. Notice it doesn't say prayer is answered when you accept, tolerate, put up with, endure, or muddle through everything, grumbling about it. No, prayer is answered when we welcome everything. This goes beyond blessing everything. It goes even beyond being grateful for everything. It says, welcome everything. And I have a reading, a poem by Rumi, who most of us know, a 13th century Persian poet. And you might have heard of the guest house. I love this. So this is the guest house. This is his poem, Rumi. This being a human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary unawareness comes. An unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows, who violently sweep your house, emptying it of its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably. He may be here to clear things out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them all at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Welcoming everything into our lives, even the stuff we don't want. It's there anyway. Knowing that the inside, what you slip into that prayer chest, everything is part of it becoming true. That comes your way. Everything that comes your way is a portion of that answer to prayer. We don't know. We've looked back in our lives and things we prayed on, and then it looks like this is not what I prayed for. And then it's like, wow, if that didn't happen, then this prayer would not have been able to work. So we don't want to block anything that is coming into our lives. And your welcoming everything in your life keeps the answer coming through rather than by repelling it. When we resist it and repel it, it keeps you in vibrational harmony with that which you desire to experience. So we gotta really pay attention to where our vibration is going, our frequency is going. What are we focusing on all the time? There's a lot to focus on this time in the world. Are we giving it more energy, or are we focusing on the prayer and the manifestation of that vibration brings? And I love this line from the novel, The Prayer Chest. It may not be immediately apparent how failure leads to flourishing, or loss fertilizes the ground for gain, but trust that it does. Trust that it does. And of course, this is the place where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. When things aren't going the way we want them to go, and we believe there's a power for good anyway, we believe it is always in operation. Ernest Holmes, one of my favorite readings in his book, he says, to abandon the truth in our hour of need where is it? Yes, is to prove that we really didn't know the truth in the first place. When we need it the most is when we must stay focused and centered and aligned with that which we are praying for. It is precisely when those things come to us that we do not like are part of the answered prayer. That we must welcome them, like Rumi said, welcome them, knowing that they are part of the answer, that they have an important role in the big scheme of things. If we look back, really, on our lives, it's all part of a puzzle. And without one fitting a certain way, that puzzle cannot be completed the way we want it completed. The answer to our prayers often requires a shift and a change, a letting go of the lesser so that the greater can come through. We always expect greater and greater good in every form, no matter what. Emma Curtis Hopkins, great teacher, in her book, Scientific Christian Mental Practice, wrote, "Have confidence that if one man does to you what seems to be a wrong, your genius, your spirit, your God is that moment working good for you. The man is the instrument." That person is the instrument, even if it looks awful, through which the good, the greater, can come forth. And it cannot come forth if it didn't come through a situation, a greater situation that we overcame. What if you start looking at life through the lenses that every individual or situation in your life really is part of the answer to your prayer? Just a different shift. How does your life look when you realize that every experience that you have is after a prayer, is part of it being answered? This is prayer being answered. Doesn't look like it, doesn't feel like it, but this is prayer being answered. You talking to yourself and letting yourself know that a greater good is at hand. It always is. I expect it. Expect it, because what you expect is what you're giving your energy to. And our little novel unfolds in some pretty wonderful ways, not just for Joseph and his children, but for many, many people that follow. Joseph's prayer that he placed in the prayer chest was a very simple one. Keep my children safe and take care of them. And they really were. If you read the little book, the prayer chest, they were taken care of. And many more children that came their way later on were taken care of, that he never could have foreseen. When we pray and things happen, and we listen and we do it without really getting caught up in the mind, the quagmire of our mind, things take place that we can't see or plan, but we trust, we have faith, and that faith is what allows us to move to the greater good that is always there. In the book, there isn't another secret. So, and we have next week, we have the fourth secret. There's some work to do here, because there isn't one in the book. But it leaves an opening for a fourth secret. Joseph writes it down, he knows it, in the prayer notebook, but we're not privy to it. It's not in the book. And so the final line in the prayer in the book read, Joseph could not know that with the original 3 secrets, the prayer chest would have saved dozens of lives. But with the 4th secret that he added, The chest could save thousands. But as I said, we're not told what that secret is. So I have an assignment for you, if you so desire to take it. I invite you to prayerfully consider what the fourth secret could be. You can email it to me, what it could be. And we'll bring that into the service next week. So far we have prayer is answered through us. Prayer is answered when we listen. And prayer is answered when we welcome everything. This knowledge alone is really good. Just those three alone. It's very good. But if there's one more important piece, we need to know it. And I think there is. And if there is, what do you think it might be? So as I said, email it to me if you get inspired. And next week, we will create the fourth secret of the prayer chest. So make sure you join us next week as we reveal this great secret. And so it is.